All right, so it is saying that I am going live, but as I know, I have already been live. So while I'm live, guys, I want to say hello. Hope everyone is doing well. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see and talk with me outside of what's going on here, if you just want to see what I really think about things, and you don't mind me being honest, check me out at twitter.com/lore reloaded. That is not completely dedicated to everything lore reloaded. It's just me hanging out. And gonna be honest with you, I give my own opinions there. So be prepared for that. We got Paul in the house. Hope you're doing well. What is going on, my good friend? Let me know how if you let me know how all of the sound is going. I just turned it on and checked it, as you probably heard. It all seems to be going well, so hopefully that'll stay. Of course, we got R. McDud. What's going on? Anakin64, Jonathan Stevie, Trek Cannon in the house. Always a pleasure with Trek Cannon here. So I got a video ready to go live, and what I decided to do was, put in the actual content you guys want to see. I put in actual, honest-to-God clips and everything. And I said, you know what, to hell with it. I am just going to fight it should they decide to try to block it. And of course they did, and now we're in the middle of that process. Now, what I didn't think when it came to that is that, hey, I haven't done a video in about a week and have lost over 30,000 views that I generally get because I didn't do any videos. And so let's do this really idiotic plan where I don't get anything out to you guys so I can continue to hemorrhage. So instead of doing that, I'm going to still do my plan because I think you guys deserve to see it, but I'm also going to try to do live streams if I'm sitting there fighting it. Worst case scenario, it should come back within 2 days. Hopefully, usually NBC Universal is good about it. They release it same day. I guess we're going to find out, though. Baltar, thank you for asking, by the way. Who is Baltar? Wonderful question, Surf Trek Tonics. Baltar is actually a character from Battlestar Galactica Reimagined. That'll be the one I'm talking about. He's actually from both Battlestar Galactica and Battlestar Galactica Reimagined. From what I can tell, though, the Baltar in the Reimagined is much, much different than what he was in the original series. Now, those who watch the original series can let me know, but generally, he seems like he's a different character. And what we're going to be talking about today is his issues when it comes to, or him being put on trial in Crossroads Part 1 and Part 2, which I believe is either Season 2 and 3 or Season 3 and 4. It was the finale. And so we're just going to walk through that. We're going to have some fun. By the way, if you guys are watching this, for new subscribers or likes and things like that, if you notice below me, there's a boss bar. It can be taken out by super chats. The boss can be killed by super chats, likes, subscribes, all that good stuff. So let's just break it down, and then hopefully, maybe even during this, the video will be released, or worst case scenario, you guys will get to see the finished product in a couple of days. We're only going to be talking about New Caprica, and specifically the fall of New Caprica, and the Cylon occupation. An entire thing based on what Baltar did, Season 1 all the way to Season 4, is coming at a later time. But right now, let's just talk about New Caprica and the actual events that happened there. So for those who haven't watched Battlestar Galactica Reimagined, or for those who haven't seen it in a while, the Colonials found a planet that was habitable, which they deemed New Caprica, and decided to settle down there and to stop running due to what was going on with a nebula. They couldn't be found, yada yada. It was unlikely the Cylons were going to find them, so they were going to stop looking for Earth and come hang out and just, live life, stop running. Unfortunately, as is with everything, the Cylons did eventually find them. And at that point, the military, both the Galactica and the Pegasus, decided to jump away, leaving New Caprica completely defenseless. To be fair, they were already defenseless. I mean, there wasn't a lot that Galactica nor the Pegasus could do. They were undermanned. But ultimately, they did cut and run. So, at that juncture, our good friend Baltar decided to surrender New Caprica, and of course, they then became occupied. Technically, the Cylons like to look at it as some form of alliance versus an occupation, but that wasn't necessarily the case. Headless Chicken, Baltar BSG Reimagined needs to be castrated, but original Baltar needs to burn. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Baltar's real problem, says Hybrid Jack, was uncontrollable libido. His lust was the cause of all his problems. The original attack on the colonies, the Cylons finding New Caprica. Poor man needs to be taken care of. Okay, well, that's fair. I like seasons 1 and 2, but by God, 3 and 4. I tell you, the ending, so we'll get into discussing Baltar in a second, but the ending was really disappointing, in my opinion. Also, if you guys are watching this, 33 people watching, 10 likes. If you want this to do better, if you want me to do more like this, especially non-track, then please consider hitting that like button, because the more it's shared, the more people see it, the more I want to do it. If I don't get a lot of people on non-track stuff, that means you only get track live streams, guys, and no one wants that, because we want conversations about everything. So, and that was President Baltar, says Lego. Yep. Fun fact, the original Baltar was played by John Colicos, who played Commander Kor in Star Trek. I didn't know that. Leaving was a smart idea. Better to have some people than none. I would agree, Paul. And you see, here's the thing. A lot of people get really angry at Baltar, specifically when it comes to New Caprica, and I don't think that it's necessarily fair. Because both Pegasus and Galactica cut and run. Like, it was going out of business. And they weren't blamed. Because it wouldn't make sense to sit there and fight. They would have died, like you said. So the fact that Baltar surrendered and just let everything happen is on par with the Pegasus and the Galactica cutting and running. It's a smart idea to bend the knee if everyone's going to die if you don't. And it brings up a really interesting conversation that they had, because the way it's portrayed, and it is never countered in the original. It is never countered in the, not in the original, it's never countered in the trial, is that had Rosalind been the president, she would have got them all killed. Now, I'd be interested, because if you guys disagree with me on this, I think we can have that conversation, because for me, pragmatically, it only makes sense that they would sit there and just give in and do whatever they wanted to. I mean, it's better to be under Cylon occupation, even if people die, than to have everybody slaughtered. The only thing that people might be able to argue is that Baltar wasn't doing it out of Tim HHH wishes he could stay, but he's got to get back to work. All right, talk to you later, Tim. The only thing that people might argue is that he was doing it for his own self-preservation. He didn't really care about the colonies. Can you really argue even with that? First off, regardless of why he did it, the same result. Whether he did it to protect the people of the colonies or he did it to save his own life, we still have the protection of the people to that small degree. But beyond that, if someone puts a gun to your head or someone is about to kill you and you do what they ask you to do to stay alive, can we get too angry? Because again, and you do this kind of haphazardly, it's only human, right? They're just acting the way that they should be. But that's my question. I'd be very curious where you guys, what you guys think, where you want to go with that. Hybrid Jack, despite his problems, however, I agree with Lee. He saved everyone's life on New Caprica and did so many times throughout the show. He was deeply flawed, deeply human, but in most cases did right. Yeah, and you see, that's the interesting thing. You want to show him this? My daughter likes to draw, and that is the Pikachu. Oh, wow. Did you draw that? That's a Hyperion, isn't it? And a Mew. When did you draw that?
Today.
Wow.
Finish this. Show a Mew.
Yeah, that's Mew. I am nowhere near that good.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll turn into power.
Okay, show him one more time, and I got to do this, guys. What are you showing the power? All right. Raven, what do you want to show? Stop.
It's in front of me.
What do you want to do, Raven?
So when YouTube changes, who turns the pure power?
Okay. I love you guys. All right, go play, okay?
I hope you like that little.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they loved it. All right.
For you.
They got all dressed up for you guys, so there that was.
Yeah, so we're like
All right, I forgot where I was talking about. Yeah, those are nice drawings. They made them themselves. Okay, so even if it was for self-preservation and he did it himself, it's to save himself. You know, you can't get. I don't see that as a negative. You know, especially since it ends in the same result. And what were you talking about? That's right. So I remember now. Baltar is a deeply flawed character. I won't necessarily disagree with that, but I think that he's done really well in the shows. I think that he is is someone you can work with. He's a character you can identify with. I don't know how he is in the original, though. I need to watch the original, I guess. A lot of people keep asking me. Oh no. Lego My Ego says he was the only one implicated. What's going on, Jeff Franklin? Yeah, so there's another question too. He was the only one implicated in the Baltar administration. But we know other people were a part of that administration. Gaeta almost lost his life because it was assumed that he only helped, that he never helped a rebellion. He finally proved himself to have helped a rebellion, but ultimately, when it first started, it was thought that he did the same thing that Baltar did. So they put all of their sins upon Baltar, and I think when it comes to New Caprica, they didn't really have anywhere to go with it. He did. Now let's talk about the death list. So he signs a death list that kills a ton of people who they think are a part of the resistance or the rebellion. We know that he did this against his will with a gun to his head, right? He even said that he wasn't going to do it at the beginning. And they told him that they would just kill him and then kill everyone else. But I hate it when people drink on live streams. I'm sorry, my throat's hurting me. He first says he's not going to do it. They say, well, we'll kill everyone if you don't. And then they put a gun to his head and say, you know, do it or we'll kill you. And he ultimately does it to save himself. But that goes back to my conversation that we had beforehand. Does him signing that say, is he saved because when he signs that, he saves most of the colony? And if that is true, so let's say that, okay, we can forgive it because because they were going to destroy the colony, destroy everybody, kill everybody if he didn't. When does it stop? How many atrocities can he do before he becomes guilty? I don't think it's as black and white. And honestly, I'll give you spoilers, but I do hope you guys go and watch it when it goes live. I come off on the side of saying he's not guilty, that to let him go. There was nothing he could do. Any type of resistance would have resulted in the death and destruction of just more people. We see that in the rebellion, right? The resistance, whatever the hell we want to call it. The terrorists. Every time they did something, every time they escalated, the Cylons just escalated more. They just did more. So I don't know. Again, if you disagree with me or you think he should be, I would be very, very interested. By the way, if you're talking to me directly, put Lore Reloaded. It will pop up and give me a special... It colors it so I can see it. If you're talking to me and it doesn't color it, I may not be able to see it. We have about 44 people watching. Please consider liking. The more people like it, the more we'll see it. Plus, you get to destroy the boss right below me, and there are more bosses if you destroy that one. Additionally, more people that watch this, more conversations we have, the more I'll do non-Shrek stuff, right?
And the more of us.
Yeah, and the more of the kids you'll see, which is always fun.
And we'll more dress up.
Yep.
If
All right.
you wanted to dress up. If you wanted to
Orataka Tinga says OG Baltar was an absolute traitor. Reimagined Baltar was a tragic narcissist led to betray the colonists. I could see that. I could see him as a as a narcissist. I don't know. I'll be interested to see what you guys say about it. Polal says it's better to kill 200 people than 201. I would agree with that. Sometimes Battlestar Reimagined is really hard to follow. Why do you say that, Darth Oculus? By the way, if you guys want to talk about something else, we can move into something else as well. For those who are new to the channel or new to live streams, I generally have a topic we talk about, but wherever you guys want to go, we'll go. It's whatever. So, let's see. He said during the trial that he knew Gaeta would pass on the information, says Jan Negre. I don't remember that. Oh, he does say that, doesn't he? Yeah, but how truthful is that? I wonder if that's truthful. Did he really believe that they would pass on the information? I don't know. I think the Resistance is just as guilty as Baltar. The question is, who is the winner that writes... I think the Resistance is just as guilty as Baltar. The question is, who is the winner that writes history? And that's a more complicated topic. And honestly, I didn't get into it, but it may be something we decide to travel down. The truth of the matter is, the Resistance did a lot more to get people killed than Baltar did. And not only were they killing Cylons, but they were openly and knowingly killing humans, collaborators. Now, in a Resistance, you do have to kill collaborators. That's just the way it's going to be. But, you know, I think it's fair to say that the Resistance has a far bigger human death count than Baltar ever did. If Baltar refuses to sign, they nuke the colony or replace him with someone else who will. Either way, people die. On the other hand, with Baltar living, he could possibly talk them out of future acts. In theory, I don't think that's a horrible counter, because 6 does have a weakness towards him. At least a couple of the 6 models do, right? So I guess you could say, and they didn't make this argument, but they could have, that, hey, you know, while he is no huge fan of the Cylons do have some models that listen to him or will fight for what he believes in. In fact, that's the entire reason they didn't nuke New Caprica. And so he was trying to work within the system to save as many lives as he could. The problem is that, and it's real life, so it's realistic, but the problem is that Baltar is not a likable character in a lot of what he does. You kind of love to hate him. He does almost everything he does is narcissistic, is for his own benefit. And so when he does things that we may not judge other people for, let me rephrase that. He does things that other people would be let off of, that we wouldn't judge them for. Because it's like Lee said, we don't like you. What else I think is interesting, and another piece that I kind of go into a little bit, is, and you know, until I started looking at Battlestar Galactica, until I started watching from an analytical point of view, I never even noticed this, but the storyline, you know, Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, and Season 4, all of them, actually do a wonderful job in showing the societal breakdown. They do it when you first, in Season 1, it seems like they're still trying to have a society. They're still trying to have government. In Season 2 and Season 3, it's what kind of government are they going to be? What kind of people are they going to be? We have episodes talking about the Union and how there's a political class, a military class, and then the working class. How they have to eat algae for the rest of their lives, right? And so the breakdown of society and how they pretend like they're still somehow civilized. Even we can see it here in the court system, and what they're trying to do to Baltar is interesting. It's intriguing. I think it's how you would see the degradation of a society if they were always on the run and never got a chance to breathe. Especially if they were in like ships that they just couldn't interact. It's not like they're on land, right? So Surf Tectonics brings up an interesting question, and it's intriguing because of where I live. It says, is it better to fight on your feet than live on your knees? The reason why I find it interesting from an American standpoint, from someone from the States, is because generally it's very, especially in the South, it's very frowned upon to acquiesce to oppression, that you should fight it in every way you can. Like Starbucks says, we fight them until we can't. However, let me rephrase that question. Is it better to fight on your feet when you and your kids and your family will be killed if you lose than live on your knees and your kids get to grow old? And I don't think they ever really explored that in the with the Cylons and New Caprica. Maybe they did. I don't think they did, though. But honestly, I think that if my kids are involved, personally, I don't know that I would fight if it meant that I put their lives in jeopardy. Personally, just on my own is a different story. Or Tinga, the resistance failed on their own because it killed innocents whilst killing collaborators and forcing the Cylons to merely respawn. I thought about that. The Cylons, as you stated, at least the skin jobs, got to come back, right? So were they really doing anything? They were annoying them. But you see, the interesting piece of this is the point of resisting is to cause enough trouble and enough internal issues that the occupying government can't handle it. That you can force them off. But would they ever really be able to force the Cylons away? I don't know. At Lore Reloaded, the entire human race is at fault. All they had to do was maintain a strong defense. Sure, the Cylons may not find New Caprica, but the threat is still there, and thus the fleet is needed. Yeah, I mean, the only thing is that they'd never be able to defeat the Cylons. That's why they're on the run, or they would fight them. And they don't really have the resources to set up a strong, like, turrets or anything, I don't think. That's an interesting conversation. I don't know how you would go about setting up a defense without the infrastructure to build that defense. No. Hybrid Jack says the court was a proper Soviet show trial. If I remember correctly, Gata outright lies to condemn Baltar, and Saul makes unsubstantiated claims. While sloshed, the outcome would be unjust either way. Well, here's interesting, and I break this down. Again, I hope this thing can go live today. I'm more and more becoming skeptical of that, and I'm on the fence on if I should go back and do it. But here's the thing. So Gata lies. Both Saul and the president have unsubstantiated claims. Both of them say both of them say Baltar did nothing. And both of them say he signed the death list order to get all of us killed. They were not a part of the administration. They have no idea what Baltar did or did not do. They have no idea if he resisted or not. They also have no idea if he actually signed it. It could have been forged, or he could have signed it. He could have done it willingly. He could have done it with a gun to his head. They don't know. They have absolutely no proof one way or the other. And I actually talk about that because them saying that is ridiculous. Now, Gata is lying. we know that, but people watching may not know. And I actually go into that because if I was the defense, what I would have done is I would have said, hey, I would have tried to discredit Gata because we know Gata did try to kill Baltar before this court happened. So I would have asked Gata, is he putting the blame on Baltar, or when Baltar was signing it, why didn't he do anything? Is he upset? Did he try to kill Baltar because he's actually really guilty that he didn't help out enough? That he, even though he was a part of the resistance, to a degree, he understood why Baltar wasn't resisting as much and maybe wanted to do that. There's a ton of ways they could have discredited Gata that they didn't go into, which is unfortunate. Viron Victus talking about if they could have made turrets or what. Yeah, they didn't have much production capacity. Remember how big of a deal it was? They made a single Viper from scratch. I know the Pegasus started making Vipers, but I don't think they had the industrial capacity. They were still, on the run. Even though you find a planet, you got to build all of the things in order to take resources from that planet. And they really were having trouble surviving, Let me ask this before we continue on. If you guys, I'd be interested. Do you guys, after this, want me to go back and just completely re-edit and take out all of the clips and just kind of have like a slideshow so that you guys can see it today? Or do you think I should wait the 2 days and give you the version that I made with the clips? So press 1 if you want me to go back and re-edit it tonight and get it out to you. Press 2 if you think I should wait. The only thing I hate about waiting is, again, my numbers are taking a beating right now.
Please wait.
All right, one more time, babe, and then I gotta do this, okay?
Please wait, YouTube.
Please wait. You want to talk to him? You can talk to him for a second, just one more time, okay?
I want.
Gotta look up right here.
Up.
Yeah, so come back, see? All right, what do you want to say real quick?
Subscribe so we can be happy.
So we can have money?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Subscribe so we can eat. That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
All right, I love you, babe. All right, go play.
And subscribe to the Lord Reloaded because it's fun.
All right, go play, sweetie. I love you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Who doesn't like seeing people dress up, I ask. All right. All 2s. Fantastic. All right. I'm okay either way as long as it gets posted. Welcome to the galaxy. I'm sure Felis will appreciate your presence. Yeah, it's not as bad. I don't like ever seeing numbers this low, but it'll recover. I'm not upset about it. 2 will be better for your numbers. I agree. All right. So, I don't know. Do you guys have any more thoughts when it comes to this specifically, when it comes to talking about the case or Baltar, or do you guys want to move on? I can stay on for a little while longer. We can talk about the other things if you would like. But, is there any really more to add to it beyond Baltar was between a rock and a hard place, and the Resistance did as bad for... The Resistance did as bad for the humans, for the colony, as Baltar did. And then we have that substantial pause while I try to find where I was. I shouldn't click off of stuff. I don't know why I do that. Because I am stupid is why I do that. There we go. Bit off topic. I often wonder if the colonies and Cylons met Doctor Who's Cybermen, who might both sides they'd react to them. They might ally, I guess. The Cybermen are not exactly team players. What are your thoughts on the Caprica series? I wish they could have went on longer. I've watched 1 or 2 episodes of Caprica. I got to be completely honest. First off, it's hard to find right now. But beyond that, when I was actually watching it, it was hard for me to get into. I really need to watch it, though, honestly. I don't know. By the way, if you guys are watching this, 47 people watching, 33 likes, get in there. Get in there and hit that like button. Today is free. Free only today. Viron Victus. Lee basically nailed it. Baltar was a jerk, so it makes nearly impossible to have any sympathy for him. Also, remember the circle that worked after they escaped and jettisoned valuable people into the vacuum. Yeah, we talked about that. One more time, okay? So you dressed up. One more time. Just like Sissy, because you dressed up in a dress. What do you want to say?
So, subscribe to our channel.
Huh?
Subscribe our channel.
Subscribe to our channel?
Yeah.
Anything else?
And don't miss the video.
Don't miss the video? Okay. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No.
All right, say bye.
Bye.
You love all of them? That's inappropriate. Was there anyone who had clout to militarize Starfleet in the TNG era? Did you watch Battlestar Galactica, Blood and Chrome? There was, yeah, I would say that there was a lot of people who had the ability or clout during the TNG era to militarize Starfleet. After Wolf 359, Cisco started militarizing and working on the Defiant. We see several different admirals who do that, but there just wasn't enough want for it, I guess. Oh, something else that was brought up. They did have mining ships and such. I mean, that's fair enough. So they had some infrastructure. I just don't think they had enough in 2 years to do it. That's just my opinion. It seemed like the Colonial Fleet had a ship based on the Miranda class. It seemed like the Colonial Fleet had a ship. Okay. What about the fleet that they left behind? What about the fleet that they left behind when they jumped from New Caprica? I mean, they had to. They everyone who could get out of the way, who could run, ran. But you can only run so far and for so long, right? And you can only, if you're not ready to jump and you're left behind, you just are. They did that at the beginning during the miniseries. It's a numbers game. If the Galactica and the Pegasus had stayed and tried to fight, they would have been destroyed. If they had powered down and surrendered, now they have nothing else to fight with. The Cylons would be in control of the last 2 battle stars humanity had. Running was the optimal thing to do. Raw666 has a question. It's funny, Raw. I think I've told you this before. There was another guy. I used to have a couple different channels, but my original channel, ironically, was a Christian channel. And there was a dude named Raw66106, I think. Or maybe it's Iron Cross 66106. I don't know. There was a Raw with 6s and then Iron Cross 66106. Complete utter jerks. Just the worst type of Christians you'd ever find. Every time I see your name, it reminds me. I know you're not them, but still it's funny. Anyway, question. I have a question. Do you think the military faction shoots itself in the foot after attempting to assassinate the president in Star Trek IV? I think it leads towards the demilitarization. I would agree that they would have removed the Hawks from power. So yeah. How angry are you that they sacrificed the Pegasus versus the Galactica? That didn't make a ton of sense. They should have kept the Pegasus. There were so many advantages. But the problem is that, first off, it's the namesake of the show. And the Pegasus sacrifices itself in the original in a similar way. I think he could have done that and still survived. I think they could have done the attack and the Pegasus still survived. But ultimately, they chose not to. They chose to go a different route with it. Epics00. By the way, guys, just so you know, the way I keep the lights on is through people like you watching, as well as Patreon and Super Chats. So thank you so much. It really, really helps. $9.99. Remember, his good acts would not be needed if not for his bad ones. Any judgment on him should include that in the calculation. As yourself, if he did not exist, where would humanity be? Remember, his good acts would not be needed if not for his bad ones. you can say that about any. You could say that about any person. Every good act I've ever done is not necessarily counteracted or wouldn't be needed if not for the bad acts that I've done as well, right? So I think that's more human. Now, if you're trying to say Baltar put him in that position, and so no matter what he did, he can't be absolved. The one act that Baltar does that isn't negative, isn't evil, isn't illegal, is becoming president and letting the people have what they want, which is to be on New Caprica. The fact that they're on New Caprica and get caught is not Baltar's fault. Now, you may be trying to bring up the nuke, where he gives off the nuke, and it goes off, which is fair, but you're going to have to remind me why he did that. It's been a while since I saw that piece. So we can discuss the nuke. I forget, why did he give the nuke away? Any judgment on him should include that in the calculation. If he had not won the presidency, they would not be on New Caprica. But if the Cylons had never showed up on New Caprica, the humans would have been infinitely better off than searching for Earth. Infinitely. So we have to look at both sides of it. At Polol, I think he gave the nuke for a power source. I may be wrong. Yeah, well, that's how he got the nuclear device. He needed it for a power source, but he then gave it to, I think it was a 6, maybe, like was pointed out, but I'm not sure why he did that. I don't know. And, it's a really interesting conversation to discuss this building up, because the more you talk about it, they did technically have mining ships. I just don't think you could do it in 2 years. I really don't. I mean, if you look at where they were, even if they're mining, they still have to build things. They were living in tents still, right? So, I don't know. The Cylons finding New Caprica due to the bomb going off is ludicrous, says Zontar. Okay. The Cylons were throwing everything at the Pegasus because it was the superior ship, and they were suppressing the Galactica in battles, says Surf Tectonics. Sure. I mean, the Pegasus, the Galactica was about to be destroyed because they had taken on more ships. By the way, I think it's really cool that you get a different boss. So after the super chat, a different boss spawned with more HP. I think that's cool. Anyway, the Galactica was about to be destroyed because they were taking on 2 or 3 base stars. And the Pegasus comes and just kamikaze. He Leroy Jenkins. But again, I don't think you necessarily had to do that. They didn't have to sacrifice the Pegasus. Space Talk did a really interesting breakdown of how to do it and still keep the ship. The writing for the loss of the Pegasus wasn't necessarily the best. But I'm not completely sure how you would rewrite it to make it better. Because I think that the Pegasus staying with the fleet and the Galactica going to save them makes sense. Because if they sent both Battlestars, everyone would be complaining, oh my god, why would you send both Battlestars? Because you leave the fleet open, right? But then you have the problem with the Pegasus doing its kamikaze, which doesn't make as much sense either. If we were going to write it, we'd have to find a way. If I was going to write it and make it where you had to sacrifice the Pegasus, because we have to destroy the Pegasus. That's just what happens in the original. It's what we're doing here. I'd have to find a way for both the Pegasus and the Galactica to get caught in the crossfire, and the only way to get out is for the Pegasus to sacrifice itself. But I don't know. Headless Chicken says, talking to somebody else, but I'm gonna address it for here for a second. My issue is the Pegasus should have been the one to spearhead the assault. I disagree. I think leaving the Pegasus behind, the more advanced ship that can make Vipers, that has training facilities, that wasn't a museum when the war started, is the one that needs to stay with the fleet. So I don't know. Pegasus lost her FTL as soon as she landed on the grid. You know, something I noticed about the Pegasus, that thing is brittle when it comes to its faster-than-light systems. I forget the name of it. I was watching a different episode, and I was looking for something else. I was watching a different episode. I was watching a different episode, and I forget what the name of it was, but the captain was an engineer, and he sent his people. He sent people on a training mission, and then he jumps the Pegasus to where they are, even though everything says it's a trap. And the Pegasus, as soon as it arrives, the FTL drops. So the FTL always drops on the Pegasus. That is the most brittle, most fragile system. The Galactica gets the living heck beat out of it on a daily basis. And the FTL rarely goes down. But on the Pegasus, by God, if you just look at that ship wrong, that FTL drops like no one's business. Jen Negre says 3 of your videos are not demonetized, so I can watch them. All of my videos are monetized. I don't necessarily have that issue that others do when it comes to being demonetized. My biggest issue is, like I said, now where I'm fighting Content ID. But if you want to help me out, again, turn on a playlist and watch it, because last week I took more of a beating than I realized. At Lore Reloaded, also the Peggy tanked 2 nukes while the Galactica was shredded with 1. Yeah, Ryan comes up. Yeah, and that's a good point too. So the FTL goes down, and then they fix it by closing 3 valves, because apparently 3 valves can take that thing down. I like the You know what I really, really appreciate, and I thought was very cool, is the Pegasus. The Pegasus was the superior Battlestar, but it was the actual original Battlestar, which I thought was cool, because the original Battlestar from the first one, they made it the more advanced one. You know, here's an interesting theory. Here's something that I think would be kind of curious if you guys were talking about it. Jan Negre, I'm going to do that. Sorry, I have only this much money. Look, and Negre, if you need the money back, let me know, and I'll just go ahead and do a refund. Don't give money if you don't have it. If you need the money, I'm going to be fine. If you need the money, keep it. And just send me a message. Because you don't owe me anything. Just watch and have a good time. Only ever give money if you have it extra and you're not going to miss it. I don't ever want money from someone who can't afford it. Here's an interesting theory that I wonder how curious it is. So the Galactica, in order to use its jump ability, FTL, they have to bring in the hangars. And then they can jump. And then once they jump, they extend the hangars. The Pegasus doesn't have that flaw. So I wonder if the FTL doesn't have that flaw, so you can jump with the hangars out and it won't cause any issues. But it's a more sensitive system because of that. I don't know. The Pegasus was heavily damaged during the original colony's attack. It's likely they couldn't fix the FTL completely in 1 year. I mean, maybe. They never talk about it. It's a possibility, for sure. I don't know. All right, guys, so we're going to be ending it very shortly. You guys have anything else you want to say? Anything you want to talk about? Did you know the Pegasus had launch tubes for Raptors? I didn't know that. I'd be curious to... is there an episode where you see that? Because I did not know that. Maybe I knew it. I did a breakdown of the Pegasus, but that was a long time ago. I don't think I knew that, though. I don't know. We'll give a couple more minutes. Don't forget to hit that like button. Once this goes live, if you guys want to comment on it, let me know if you want me to continue to do stuff like this. You know, I'm known for Trek. That's what people come from. I love Trek. I love talking about Trek, but I also like to extend and expand a little bit. So if you want to see more things like this, the channel is based on a conversation. That's what I want to have. I want to have a conversation. And based on what creates the most conversation is what I'm going to do, you know. Razors, Zontar, given $5. Thank you so much. It really helps. Razors, hard to take seriously. The civilian fleet incident would have had Kane's head over what she made them do. Razors, oh, the movie Razor is hard to take. You know, that's an interesting discussion. Maybe one we can have at a different time to go in depth. I will agree that generally when you do something like that, you're going to have that there could be a rebellion, but it's the only military vessel around. It's the only one that can defend you against the Cylons. So you'll put up with a lot. What is your favorite sci-fi video game? My favorite game that I've played ever that I remember is Armada 1 and 2, Star Trek Armada 1 and 2, just off the top of my head. But I'd have to think about it more to know which one is my all-time favorite. Trek Yards in their episode shows a row of Viper launch tubes and one Raptor tube. Trek Yards in their episode. Is it ever used in the show? Because I know Trek Yards gets the models and everything, but I'm curious, is it ever used in the show? Also, a Raptor launch tube makes no sense to me based on what the Raptors are used for. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'd just be interested to see what the explanation for it. Oh. Hybrid Jack says it makes sense. The Mercury class was part of a much larger fleet that it could afford to lose ships. The Galactica was built during the first Cylon War. Reliable FTL is more important. Yeah, you know, I'd agree with that. The Galactica was made during a time when they were just trying to get out as many ships as possible that needed to work, that couldn't be hacked, and like you said, reliable. In the show, in the miniseries, 30 ships are destroyed, and that's a third of the fleet, meaning they had 90 ships. I don't know if they had 90 battle stars, but they had a ton. Probably to get a shuttle countermeasures out with a squadron, maybe. So when it comes to the launch tube, to get out a Raptor so that they could do the countermeasures, maybe I could see that. During martial law, some laws are suspended, and people are more likely to agree with military government turning the screw. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Jan. I mean, what's going on, Mr. Miles, Chief Engineer? I don't know if I said hi to you. Hope you're doing well, sir. I mean, you know, again, you'll put up with a lot if you think that the only other option is to get killed. I don't know. All right, guys, I may do another one. I may not. I hope to God this one gets done, but if not, you know what, I'm just gonna take the hit. I can rebuild. I've done it before. If you're watching this, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I may be doing another one. If I do another one tonight, that will definitively be a Star Trek one. But again, thanks so much for watching, and I am going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded.